All right. For the first time ever,
Yes.
for the first time ever at one of our relay universities, we have the unique opportunity locally to hear from a researcher. We have a very, very special treat for you today. Here to talk more about what our fundraising dollars do and how they support the mission is Dr. Gwendolyn Quinn. She's an American Cancer Society funded researcher, and she's here to tell us a little bit more about what your dollars do.
Hello.
Hello!
Okay, good. Yeah, thank you for this opportunity about the work. She is good for finding American kids, both for myself, really, as in a modest way, but I think as a young adult, a cancer survivor. Yeah. I can't hear myself. Oh, but okay. Yeah. So I work with with an Cancer Society research grant. And this was around the time that attention to reproductive health and probably more importantly, fertility preservation was coming on the landscape in the oncology world. And my institutional research grant allowed me to survey physicians at Moffitt to find out what they knew about fertility preservation in this population and the need for it, and what reproductive health issues like contraception and sexuality they were addressing in this population, and whether or not they were referred to reproductive specialists. And I was able to identify a series of questions. And at the same time, in 2006, the American Society of Clinical Oncology came out with the first set of guidelines that urged oncologists to have these conversations with people in childbearing age. And then in 2007, I was able to get a American Cancer Society research scholar grant, in which we conducted a national survey of oncologists about their practices, their knowledge about fertility preservation methods, and their practices for counseling their patients, what were the barriers, and then how often they referred to reproductive specialists, as well as their knowledge of the guidelines. At the same time, we did a study, state-by-state study of the insurance landscape covering fertility preservation in this population, which was a big barrier that has been identified among the patient population. And we identified that no state had legislative coverage to have people's insurance plans cover fertility preservation. So while infertility is covered in most insurance plans, it requires meeting a specific criteria, and that is if you're under 35, that you be actively trying for a year without sex, if you're over 35, trying for 6 months. So cancer patients, just diagnosed with cancer, don't meet that criteria. So all of these data, both from the National Physician Survey as well as the statewide insurance survey, and the qualitative work that we had done at Moffitt Cancer Center, got a lot of national attention, and I was invited to speak at the American Society for Reproductive Medicine and the American Society for Clinical Oncology national meeting to provide the kind of core landscape that we saw about the use of these data. And then we published this study in 2009, and then in 2010, these data were really instrumental in us getting a grant from the National Institute of Health, a mechanism called an R25, which is a training grant, to train nurses to improve their communication skills talking about reproductive health. Now also at this time that we've learned that reproductive health in this population is really more than preserving fertility. Some people are not interested in having children, but sometimes this message of potential infertility gets oversold, and you have accidental and unintended pregnancies. And there's also unique needs of contraception in this population. Until very recently, this group, this adolescent young adult group, pretty much any cancer patient going through treatment was considered to be asexual. In fact, physicians would also say things like, well, people don't feel well enough to have sex, so that's not an issue. But when we talk to these patients in these populations, it is indeed an important issue, and particularly for people who are in relationships, want to maintain those relationships, and also for people who've never been in a relationship. So we know that fertility and loss of fertility is the number one concern and quality of life issue vibration for adolescents and young adults. Because even if people aren't sure how they feel about having children, it impacts their body image and how they perceive themselves and their ability to find a partner. So women in particular are more likely to think that no one's going to want them or be interested in having a relationship with them if they're not able to have a child. And so fertility preservation offers options for the future. Up until 2013, the only option for women that was considered non-experimental was embryo cryopreservation, which required the use of either partner or donor sperm, and that situation was unacceptable for a lot of women. Unfortunately, in 2013, egg girls that cryopreservation became also a standard method. There are still experimental procedures for women, like ovarian tissue cryopreservation, which is currently the only option while still experimental for pubertal girls cancer. And there are established methods for men, sperm banking, number one, and then an experimental option of particular tissue cryopreservation for pubertal boys. So in 2013, I was fortunate to be part of the American Society of Clinical Oncology revision of their guidelines, in which they used a lot of the data that we collected through our American Cancer Society grant. And showing that not only did the oncologists have a responsibility to have these discussions with the other people, but also all members of the oncology healthcare team. So our data has pointed out that while oncologists have a legal duty to do this, many cancer patients have more contact with nurses, or they might be seeing a surgeon, for example, in this case of breast cancer first, where they would see an oncologist. And so these guidelines help expand their responsibility beyond the oncologist to all members of the healthcare team. And then we were fortunate that in 2016, in fact, just 2 weeks ago, our R25 training grant was renewed and expanded. So training is available not only for nurses, oncology nurses, but also for oncology social workers, psychologists, and physician assistants. And we have learned over the years that they have considerable amount of contact with patients and potentially more time in their schedule to have these conversations. We've also learned important psychosocial things about this population, such as that the majority of people really just want this conversation about potential risk. And while some want a referral to a reproductive specialist, that referral also involves may primarily involve just a conversation. So not many people are actually taking fertility preservation methods, but all are appreciating getting this information. And even among patients who did not use fertility preservation, studies have found that they have improved quality of life by having had this information prior to their cancer treatment. So people who have poor quality of life tend to be pediatric survivors of cancer or young adults who didn't get this information and didn't feel they had a choice in decision making.
Awesome.
But along the way, we've identified important areas that need to be studied more, and that is the prevailing myth among a lot of young adult cancer patients that their cancer has a hereditary we know that only between 8 and 10% of all cancers do have a hereditary component. But many cancer patients assume that theirs does, and so this impacts decision making about future children. They don't get the right information about their true risk for hereditary transmission. We also know that there may be a second window of opportunity for young people to preserve fertility. So men and women may not be immediately sterile after their cancer treatment, but let's say they're in their early 20s, they may still not be ready to have a family. But women may experience premature ovarian insufficiency, which is essentially early menopause. And so there may be a second window of opportunity for them to preserve fertility in some way for when they are ready to start a family. So while they may be 35 at some point, they preserve their eggs 25, their eggs will always be 25. So they don't have the implications with women with advanced maternal age, conceiving. We've also learned that finances continue to be a big rate limiting factor, and we're always pushing at the national and state level for this to be a covered benefit. Some insurance companies do, privately insured do offer this now as a benefit for cancer patients, but not enough. And we find it a real shame when people really want to do this, but they're limited by finance. Also, there is research that's exploring better ways to protect impaired fertility. We've known that GnRH analogs have really controversial evidence in their ability to, with regard to women, as they describe it, putting the ovaries to sleep. And so we need to develop better ways to potentially protect fertility, because we also have some ethical dilemmas that have now been created. You've probably seen the headlines of, even outside the cancer experience, of celebrity couples or any couple fighting over embryos in the case of divorce. And we also have now a surplus of unused embryos and ovaries that are sitting in fertility clinics because people have either created the families that they wanted, they were able to conceive naturally, and they're conflicted about what to do. And so we can find ways to prevent people from having to use assisted reproductive technology. That will certainly reduce some of the ethical dilemmas that are involved in this. And we also, our research has identified that adoption is sometimes a preferred option among patients, and that's important and should be explored. But there are additional barriers for cancer patients to adopt. And it was often the fallback position of oncologists to say, well, my job is to save their life, and if they can't have children, then they can always adopt. And so we need to educate providers about the extra hurdles that cancer patients may go through. And so a lot of this work has been seen by other countries, and I and my colleagues are involved currently in international organizations that are seeking to establish guidelines for the offering of fertility preservation, not just from the biological side about who is most at risk based on what drugs, but also from the psychosocial side, and what's the best time to approach patients, what kind of information should they be given. And then ultimately, all this work is done in the context of really not being pro or con whether or not people use fertility preservation. So it's our goal to just make sure that patients have all the information they need to make a decision that's right for them, and that they don't experience regret in their survivorship period for any decisions they did or did not make. And so American Cancer Society has been really instrumental in not only getting this research off the ground and allowing it to continue, but also on their website in providing information for people to go to the website seeking information about fertility preservation and recognizing it a really important quality of life issue in this population. And so I could say a lot more about all of these different research projects, but I'll stop now and answer any questions that you have, or if you'd like me to elaborate more on anything that I have identified.
Dr. Quinn, can you hear me? Yes, okay. We definitely appreciate the time you took to speak with us today, and just because of the limited technology, we just have one question that we want to ask you. And it sounds like we've done a ton with the research that you've been conducting, but it sounds like we still need to do some more. The one question we wanted to bring up is we know the relayers in this room helped fund those dollars that went to your research grant. Can you tell us a little bit about the application process that you went through to apply for the grant?
So for the American Cancer Society Institutional Research Grant, that happens at the institutional level, I was fortunate that I was funded on the first try, and the research and the process was not very arduous, and I have since sit on the review committee for my institution, and really to see the value of these funds being available to help people get the pilot data that they need to apply for these bigger grants. So that pilot data was really helpful for me to then get the American Cancer Society Research Scholar Grant. But in that process, I have to say that it took me 3 tries to get funded. And while I'll say that every round of reviews made the application stronger, there also is the kind of I don't know how to describe it, but you're competing against other people who are applying for other sources of funds, and being first to the plate is a key thing. So there's kind of the balance between needing to go through this review process and get good information about how to make your project stronger, so that the methods are sound and that it's publishable data that helps inform policies and practice. But it's also a little bit challenging when sometimes, and through no fault of anyone, there isn't the funds to fund these grants in a cycle when they've done well, because then someone else is going to apply for funds to another foundation or another, an NIH grant, and maybe scoop you in terms of what you've done. So while competition is good, in a lot of ways, what ends up happening is that we're competing for the same population. So fortunately, I think this research prevailed, but I know at the same time that I had this funding, there was someone else who had career development award through the National Institute of Health. Excuse me. But because I had more funding than they did from ACS, I was able to offer an incentive to physicians to be able to complete the survey. So ultimately, I got a better response rate, and I got a better representative sample than this other person did. So I was able to get them published in Journal of Clinical Oncology, which is a very, prestigious journal. And I know that, my colleague unfortunately had a poorer response rate, was less geographically diverse, and so she ultimately, it took her a long time to publish in a lesser tier journal. So the review process, again, is helpful. It strengthens, the research, but we also have to be mindful of that there's competition. So I don't know if I even answered your question, but
yes, you did. Thank you for that. Yeah, and very interesting to hear that it took 3 times to go through, because it is a very critical topic. So there's definitely a need out there for more funds. But Dr. Quinn, thank you for your time today. Thanks for working through our technology. We do appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you.